All right, we are back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Growing with My Fellow Growers. We're joined this week by a special guest, but I'm going to pass it first to my regular panelist, to Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram, Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces, or you can shoot me an email over at spartangrown@gmail.com or russ@gmlarmy.com, and I can help you with all of your growing or your lighting questions.
Very happy to have you back. And next up, we've got Noah the Grower, who will be joining us for the first hour of the show tonight.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, going to a concert tonight, but I'll be on for the first hour. Happy to be here. And like I was telling you guys, I'll go in my room for a couple of minutes or a minute and show everybody some stuff. And yeah, happy to get into it.
Looking forward to that, but also looking forward to introducing our friend here. We have a German grower with us tonight. Last week, we were talking about some of the laws abroad and things like that, and potentially getting a grower on from abroad. And lo and behold, we got in touch through the DMs. I got the link out on time, and they're joining us from what is 1 a.m. their time. So without further ado, our German grower. Welcome.
Hello, guys. Very happy to join you. It's an honor to, after watching you religiously for the past like 2 or 3 years, finally be on and being able to contribute something. Since you always put out very good information, and since I'm here and I know German, I'm able to translate what our convoluted laws say about what you can and cannot do regarding cannabis in Germany currently.
It's great to have you because, to be honest, I think people within the United States are hard pressed to pay attention even to another state that's not their own, let alone another country when you've got, language barriers and things like that. So the first thing that surprised me, and I think many others that we're watching right now, is that we can see your face. You don't have to hide your face and be able to talk about cannabis. So maybe we could start there. Where is German cannabis law at? And it's obviously in a place that you're able to come on here and at least show your face and not have to worry about necessarily crazy repercussions or anything like that. So maybe we could get into a little bit of German's recent legalization and how things are kicking off, especially on the grow front.
Exactly. So let me maybe start before we decriminalized. So it's not fully legal. It's decriminalized currently federally. So we also got a federal system like in the United States where we've got the federal government being the highest authority. And so if you had cannabis in your possession before April 1st, 2024, you were subject to different levels of punishment, let's say. So for instance, in the state of Lower Saxony, you were able to get away with like having 5 grams for recreational use and only flower. But the police would confiscate it if they were to like catch you with it, but it would be like a misdemeanor or something, and it'll be immediately dropped in order not to overstrain, let's say, the German legal system with all the hundreds of thousands of cases. But if you were, for example, in Bavaria, which is regarded as the most conservative state in Germany, I heard stories of guys who were caught with zero point 0.9 grams. Then they got probation for 3 years for that. And yeah, then they got caught with like 1.4 grams. So they had a little bit of in a baggie left. And they got 10 months imprisonment for that. So it's ridiculous. And then you got a record and you cannot do anything. So we're very glad that we're able to have cannabis in our possession. So if you're walking on the street right now, you're able to have up to 25 grams of cannabis product. So meaning flower as well as hash or rosin, but not extracts. So you couldn't have like BHO or anything of that nature. But that's a little loophole. So you can have hash and rosin and stuff like that. And at home, you're able to possess 50 grams, which is a little bit weird since you're allowed to grow 3 plants at home. And even if you're not the most gifted grower, you should be able to at least get that on one plant. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But since you're allowed to have hash, you can make like nice bubble hash or anything like that. And if you're with multiple people, you can have like add up the grams and plants.
So is there a strong community of growers there yet? Or has it come out? I know that when I was in Germany, I was in there shortly after legalization, just after they legalized. And I was at a conference and it was like an industry conference, and a lot of people that owned grow store owners were coming by. We had our lights, we just had a couple tents set up with our lights in it to display our lights. And we had all these grow store owners asking us about the tents because they couldn't even keep tents in stock. They said since legalization there, they've been wiped out by everybody with interest of people growing at home.
Yes, that is the most common model. The social clubs aren't really up and running because the legislature is really German. So you can imagine that it's like in a Kafka novel where you have to go through so many different offices and stuff like that it's really hard to set up. I believe we had grow shops since the late 80s, early 90s, and they've been running pretty well. Like, for instance, I know a club that I've been to many, many times, and they always had lights and stuff, but they always had like a weird sign on the entrance, like only for heirlooms. And you would, if you walked in there, they would be like, how many tomatoes do you want to grow, and stuff like
Exactly.
that. But
That's how our
that's
hydro stores were in the illegal states for a long time, and still probably are.
exactly.
It's like you couldn't even go to a bong shop and say it's a bong. You'd say, "Can I get a water pipe, please?" If you called it a bong, they'd kick you out. That happened to me at
Yeah,
least
yeah, yeah,
once.
yeah. Like when I was in California, for instance, it was before they legalized for recreational use. I think they legalized in 2018, if I recall correctly. Um, it was said like for tobacco use, and I couldn't buy one since I was 18, and it was for people over the age of 21, I believe. So, yeah.
That was wild to me because I'm from Ohio where you could buy tobacco at 18. So like sometimes you wouldn't even get ID'd for rolling papers. So at like 14, 15 years old, I was able to buy rolling papers from at least one gas station. It was on it had the dude like with the dreadlocks and he didn't really mind selling Bob Marley rolling papers to somebody that was probably a little underage. He knew I was smoking weed, not like anything bad, but
Yeah, yeah.
it was
In those clubs, they always sold weird cigarettes as well, like in the head shops, like weird flavored Arab cigarettes with like
Yeah,
cherry,
cloves.
the super cancer sticks, and they sold them to like 15-year-olds. They never. It was a weird head shop, I must tell you. Weird smell for, I don't know, and some uh like not promote commercials from the Netherlands where weird bongs were presented by guys with like white guys with dreadlocks, and they were it was a very comical scene there.
we've all
But
been there,
right
I
now
think.
they're pretty much like Spartan said, all out of stock. So many people are growing. I know a multitude of guys who are asking me.
Is Amazon a thing in Germany?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. But many people rely on the structure of already existing grow shops, and we don't have big chains or anything like that. So the business is going well, which I think is very good since
Yeah. Support
they're
small businesses.
experienced. It's kind of a little community shop feeling. So I like
I
that
learned a lot
better.
from some of the guys in some of the local shops when I first moved out here, and some of them do have knowledge. Some of them aren't just trying to upsell you. Like if you get the owner, they're gonna try and sell you the most expensive thing. But if you get the guys like there because they're passionate about growing and they love it, they're gonna, take a few minutes after everybody leaves the shop and answer any questions you might have or show you what products they use and things like that. So it's
Mm.
interesting. The shop model. Ours kind of has shut down because corporate kind of took over and there's very few, and they're far further and further between now, and not like they once were. I guess it's become more like a superstore than a local grocery store kind of thing.
Mm. I also
You have
understand it
to stay alive.
because the deeper you get into it, the more specific and refined your own process gets, the more you're looking for particular products only. So that leads you away from that lane eventually, I think.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like it. I think the organic side is really blossoming here in Germany, and many people are actually starting in organic, and that wasn't really a thing before, like maybe 2020.
Wow, that's good to see that there's options now and people have choice, and I think it's great to see change. I think here it's a relatively recent movement, right? Like the last 100 years, I think has been a lot more conventional or hydroponic and things like that. Where we were originally all organic, I guess, right? But then we've changed our ways. Sour Diesel Tangie has a good question for you. Does Germany have any notable skunk varieties?
So the seeds you would get up until very recently are from the Netherlands. So you would get something from big brands like Royal Queen Seeds, Sensi Seeds, maybe collective seed banks like Zamnesia, maybe. The first real plant that I actually grew was a skunk number one from Royal Queen Seeds, but I don't know if it was that skunky because I was really new, and
Right.
if you're unaccustomed, anything kind of smells kind of skunky,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
except for like gelato or maybe in.
Or really orangey terps sometimes.
Gassy, candy
Yeah,
stuff, but some I even and sometimes like through the bag, some gassy stuff will smell a little bit skunky. I think the thiols are similar.
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
exactly the same, but they're close enough that you could be like, is that skunky or is that gassy? And you get a little bit more up on it. It's like, oh, that was gas, but it smelled skunky from, 5 or 10 feet or something.
Mhm. But the pheno that I grew was actually smoked by an old school lady who has been smoking since I think the 80s. And the first time she saw the bud, smelled the bud, she was like, "Oh, is that skunk?" So
Okay.
I
Skunk is
don't
also
know.
popular in Europe. I would say like skunk number one even in particular, which has become more piney and sweet, I would say, for a lot of people. Have you smelled a skunk like the animal? Like, do you guys have them in Germany? And
Yes, I've smelled it in a zoo, and it was very pungent and eye-wateringly bad.
Yeah. That's it. That's a skunk.
Exactly. So it didn't have a piney smell. Maybe gassy would be rather what that smelled like. And it definitely didn't have any sweetness, maybe tangy
they say like
or
acrid
something.
sometimes or tangy or just like
Yeah.
astringent. It's so strong it almost smells like a chemical.
Yeah, astringent, that is the feeling that like the back of your mouth like pulls together. Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost
that's
like you smelled like a harsh chemical or something. You like your nose and
yeah.
throat wants to close up. You're like, what in the fuck is that? And I think it's, nature's reaction. That thing is spraying to defend itself, and it's a defense mechanism. It causes larger, scarier animals to go running and leave the thing alone. They can only spray like once a day, and even just at that, it's very effective. They've been around for I don't know millions or thousands of years, however long, but they're bright colored and they can still survive. So it's quite potent. It's almost like a natural pepper spray, but just a lot stinkier.
Hmm. I don't know about the genetics here. We have some guys who are like now coming over, or people from the Switzerland bubble I know that many growers who are also active in America have been active in Switzerland, so that is now coming over here. But I think most people are from the Holland seed banks. They're getting their stuff from there.
That's actually a lot of people here. And then breeders sometimes refine it and breed with that stuff and cross it to other Holland seed banks or now American
Mm.
breeders and Canadian breeders. And it's kind of become more worldwide. There's a lot of Spanish as well. So it's
Oh
definitely
yeah, yeah.
worldwide. But Holland, I
Forgot
think
that.
they made having a seed bank a company illegal in like the 70s or 80s or something like that. So they were shipping seeds out all over the world from a pretty early time relatively compared to a lot of
Yeah.
other places.
So that's why I feel like they have got more like the classic stuff, or maybe stuff that isn't that exciting or revolutionary. I think they have good, stable lines. And if I get something from there, I like to have their research stuff because that is most, or the American lines, what they call. Um, but yeah, I
Do
think we
they
have
have
good
places
stuff.
locally, or is it legal in Germany are there public places where you can consume like consumption lounge, things like consumption lounges or things like that where people can
Even like outside.
or yeah, even get together outside for events where you could like t pass around each other's joints and just see from everybody trying it and get your stuff judged that way. Is that allowed?
So there are really strict laws regarding that. So
Right.
if you're in a public area, you are not to consume between 8 at night, 7 in the morning to 8 at night. So
Okay.
if it's after 8 and before 7 in the morning, you can consume outside.
Wow. Okay.
And otherwise, you can consume on your property or something like if you're in the fields or that is not a
In your car, or is that
um,
fine?
in your car, you could do that as long as it's
Right.
not in the sight of a school within a 100-meter radius
Okay, that's
or
fair.
something like a kindergarten or something.
I
Yeah.
think it's reasonable. I think the hours are trying to prevent it from essentially impacting kids and young adults because they're usually, at school during the day or whatever, and having you not able to use while they're out and about, going to and from. If it's before that hours in the morning, they're probably not up and about. If it's after that hours in the evening, they're trying to, get to be in bed and ready for school the next day, etc. So it's a interesting way to go about regulating it. And I think every country has their different ideas of going about it. Somebody had the question, what are you smoking on tonight? Or if you like used any cannabis this evening or today, what strain would that have been?
Sadly not, since I'm in the process of moving and our regulations are really, really strict about how many nanograms per deciliter of THC you are to have in your blood. So I think they raised it a little bit. It's 3.5 nanograms per deciliter, and before it was 1 nanogram per deciliter in your blood.
Wow.
But
So what they need to do is fly Jack Greenstock to Germany, and I'll take an insanely high amount of THC, and I'll do all of your driving tests, and I'll pass all
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
I actually did a study here in San Diego on cannabis and driving, and I could tell you I didn't get the placebo. They're giving people vaporizer bags or whatever, then they have you go drive around. So
Like a
they
Storz and Pickle volcano bag.
exactly.
Oh man, that's my
So
favorite brand of
they get the job
vaporizers.
done. That's a German one, if I remember correctly, and the name
Yes,
kind of
that
indicates.
is very correct. That is German engineering at
It
its
was the
finest, I
first
must say.
medical device registered in California for administering cannabis vapor. So like you can get that
Yeah,
through your
yeah.
insurance company if you're in
They got the
California.
volcano, the mighty, the plenty. Yeah, Stores and Pickles. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I've got a plenty and it looks weird, but it has an insanely good cooling system, really nice clean vapor, just a few puffs, and then I toss it out. I
I
like
will
to
say
use it for edibles.
if you want a whip style, go with Vapor Brothers because it's way cheaper and about the same rip. And the one thing I will call them out for is they had like aluminum shavings in one of their products in the last couple of years. It was that like hybrid where you could do the whip or the bag. People were finding in the manufacturing the metal on metal that they use, the aluminum was when it was threading on and off was like leaving actual metal shavings in the area that the bowl would go, like with your flour and stuff. So I don't know that that would even necessarily expose you to anything harmful because I think aluminum isn't a heavy metal and it's not going to have any issue at heat, but it's still just concerning to see within your product. So everybody has quality control issues at some point when you get big enough, and no one's perfect. But I will say, of the products I've tried, the Mighty, the Volcano, the Classic, all of them have been pretty fucking amazing. So, and the fact that they went through that level to work with the University of San Francisco, UCSF, to have a doctor actually look at it and evaluate it and say like, this is of the quality. This is a medical device. Like, not no bullshit. Like, this is
Well, and it's
if we're going to say
OG.
cannabis is medical, then that's one of the best ways to administer it, especially if you need vapor. It provides a more instant effect than an edible or an oil or some other thing.
When you look at the volcano itself, it's the OG too, man. Ever since I've been in the game, it's always been there. It's always been an option, and it's always competed.
I think it was
Right?
in
If it
2000, and I
didn't
think
compete, it wouldn't still be there.
I could be wrong, but I think they were 2000, and I think Vapor Brothers was 1999, and they're out of San
Okay,
Francisco.
so a year apart.
Yeah,
Still.
that's still, I mean, pretty early in terms of OGs. Like that was before, California's medical market started in 1996. All the way back then, we just went adult use in 2018, as mentioned earlier. But we do have some good questions as well. On top of the strain questions, we had one earlier from Donkey Populus, who's always asking good questions. At Cheap
Yeah.
and Grow, since there's such a small limit on how much they can have at home, do they have the ability to sell excess without homegrown, without legal recourse?
No, you would be very much punished for that. It is a felony, actually. So if you sell more than 7.5 grams of active ingredient, it says in the law, so THCA, within the product you're distributing, that is a felony and you will go to prison. So please don't do it. Please don't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no biggie.
It's not worth it.
Speaking from my personal judgment, but you are not to do it.
This might be digging a little bit deep, but like I know here in the US after we had September 11th, a lot of people were wanting to not have that type of thing ever happen again. So we had like the Patriot Act, which allowed things like the NSA and CIA to look into your text messages, your phone calls, etc., which they weren't able to do.
Pre-recording every phone call and like surreptitiously calling it the Patriot Act. It's like, do you disagree with the Not Killing Babies Act?
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever it's got a name like that, you should be a little bit aware. But
you're not a patriot.
is
if you don't
Germany
support
similar
this.
in that regard? Like, if are you guys under some sort of level of surveillance? So if somebody were to want to maybe sell a little to their buddy, is there a good chance that they're going to get busted, or is that person going to have to get busted themselves possessing it and then snitch on their friend or something like that? Because that's usually how it
You
went down.
have to be quite obvious in the way you're doing it, because I know so many guys who have like dealt and they did it on like Snapchat, like sending you photos of the buds.
My
Like
gosh.
a guy once called me on WhatsApp call and was like, "Yeah, how much do you want, man?"
Oh.
And it's like, yeah, no. I was like, I don't know you. Please don't ever contact me again.
Yeah.
That's the right response to that kind of call and communication,
But
especially with a newly legal place. Like, just you should be careful with who you trust generally, especially with
yeah,
a product that I'm sure at this point does it retain some sort of value. I don't know if you guys go by pounds or kilos, but like, what is the going price for cannabis these days in Germany, where you're at? For like the best of the best, the great stuff, the stuff that everybody would like be really happy to have.
it is hard to obtain top shelf, and I feel like there are many fake Cali bags going around because I've seen that,
Oh, I've seen
and
it.
it's like always
That's
like
everywhere.
cheetah piss
Yep.
one
Some
of
cookie
those. What
something.
is the blue
Cookies.
yeah, cookies. And no, if it's not vacuum sealed on the top, you're like, oh, okay, it's obviously fake. And then I think that they used PGRs. because the density of the nugs was very unusual with very little trichome coverage. And I know from this show that that is a sign of PGR usage. So I was like, nah,
Common in unregulated markets, so be very wary
yes.
and careful. Don't shop for a Cali bag. Go find a local person if it's now legal, and like they don't have to sell it to you. But there's a lot of you could buy a T-shirt from them. Like people would set up little collectives and things like that here in California before you were legally allowed to sell it. They'd sell you like
Mm.
a photo or
Yeah, the
something.
only people buying Cali bags should be in California.
Even in California, try and find a local grower, grow it yourself. You can
Well,
all
that's what I'm
legally grow
saying. Get
six.
local. So yeah, like if you're the further you are away from California, the less you should want something around you that came from California. If
100%.
you want California, you should go to California and get it there fresh. Enjoy it
And
there.
even then, look into who's your farmer, who grew it, because like there's a lot of
Absolutely.
brands that buy stuff, rename it, relabel it. I'm curious. It sounds like the market's not super developed. So, is there any brands or anything started up over there yet?
No, I know of one guy who's really big in the organics regarding fertilizer. I enjoy his content. I've not tried his products yet, so I do not know how good it is, but I think he was a big fan of Subcool and his Super Sol mix. And in 2016, he started formulating his own fertilizer and refined it. And he has got good videos on like how can you make your own FPJs, like in German. And
Nice.
what is lactobacillus, and how can you spray that on the plant? When should you spray that on the plant? How can you do a mulch? Cover crop, yes or no, and stuff like that. So yeah,
I love to hear that. That's a great organic scene developing. I mean, Subcool is a good start, and then crafting and refining. Even if you just stopped at Subcool as like super soil, that's gonna get the job done. I'll say that.
yeah,
Shout out to Subcool, rest in peace. Bred some amazing stuff, grew amazing stuff. He showed it. He grew his plants. You can still look up We Nerd episodes to this day on YouTube and see some incredible plants that he grew. So it works. But then the more you get into it, like you said earlier, you start at the shop. And then the more you know, whether you go hydro or organic, you kind of get into a niche where you're like, maybe I want this product that I see my buddy using online or people in America using online or in Canada, and they're getting good result and swearing by it. So maybe I'll give it a try. And you'll reach out to some other place to acquire that. But it's fun to kind of grow and expand and figure out what works best for you. I think what he is doing around here would be called like Korean natural farming. So a lot of people
KNF, yeah.
yeah, get into the FPJs and all that different stuff. And I think Dr. Cho's son had another one where it's more like water-based things, and et cetera. But organics is a really deep rabbit hole, and I'm glad that there's people over there diving into it as well. And it just makes sense naturally that these products are available, and a lot of them are growing locally around you, and you can make your own compost and use things like that for
Organics
your
makes sense
fruit
in the
garden,
German
vegetable garden.
scale, the German market, like the way they've, to my understanding, the way they have the clubs, it's almost like forcing smaller scale rather than giant. Like you'll have more than one choice of cannabis bud on the shelf. It'll be, many producers, local producers, rather
Yeah.
than rather than one giant or two conglomerates.
Well, speaking of the opposite of that, I heard for a while Canada, a lot of their product was being imported to Germany for like pharmaceutical grade cannabis or something like that when it was maybe just on the medical side. Can
Exactly.
imports still happen? Like if I'm flying from a legal country like Canada, could I bring my 20 grams with me to Germany? And
Yeah.
while I'm there, can I possess
You
it while I'm
can,
walking around as an adult?
yeah, you would be subject to the same laws any German would. Like if I went to the US, I wouldn't drive the German speed limit, which is on the Autobahn on vast parts unlimited. So you're subject to the same laws, and you could bring your bud, you could bring your product as long as it's not extracted chemically. So you could bring your rosin, you could bring your flour, bring your hash, your brownies, cookies, etc. pp. And all would be fine and dandy. So oh, it's not extracts, it's isolates. Um, yes, that would be the case. And we imported a lot from Canada primarily. because we legalized medical usage in 2017. And yeah, it was going in the direction of California, where you would get your prescription for lesser and lesser diseases, so to say. So in the beginning, it started with like if you had multiple sclerosis or cancer or something like that. And then in a matter of like a year or 2 years, it was like back pain and stuff like that, which I think it is effective for. But then it started defeating the purpose of why we had that, and the people started pushing and saying like, it's quite frankly ridiculous that you're imprisoning people and pursuing people in the legal system and using up so many resources for that. So yeah.
I agree. I mean, there's probably worse problems like anywhere, violence and things like that going on that people would actually get harmed. Like let's focus on those crimes, not the ones that have, are victimless, I guess if they're directly like selling to kids or something, they'll look after those types of things. But when it's adults that are consenting and they're like, hey, I have this much money, I have this much weed, I agree to this transaction, and it's peaceful. They're not like robbing each other or using some sort of strong arming to get one over on each other, then everybody can walk away happy if there's a positive way to do it. And it's I'm glad that the door is at least open. It's just unfortunate that they're still in a situation where you've got the if you have 21 grams while you're out, or 40 grams or 50 grams or something like that, you could still get a fine or jail time or whatever it is, or
Yeah.
if you get caught selling it. And it's like such an inconsequential thing. Like, to why waste the officer's time? Like, they're able to go and smoke it. Like, I might have had 21 grams, now I've got 19 or whatever. I just smoked a 2 gram
Yeah, yeah,
bag.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't make much sense, but I'm glad that it's gotten better. You can have your 25 grams in public, you can have your 50 grams at home. Everything you didn't isn't in that amount from the harvest. You're like, okay, I'll have 25 grams of flour, and the rest of my harvest, I'll make some nice, delicious bubble hash. Or the rest I'll make some rosin or something. So that's how you can lessen the blow of having not so much for personal use. But if you're like two people, maybe one doesn't smoke, you can have 100 grams and 6 plants. But what I really don't like is that you're only allowed to have 3 plants. Since I want to have a wide variety now, it's legal to taste everything I missed out on.
That's good that it stacks. I hadn't thought about that. If there's more than one person in the home, you can double up the amount of plants and grams, which is that allows access to go up. And the other thing is like that they don't discriminate the difference between a gram of flour and a gram of rosin or a gram of bubble hash, which is smart. Anything past your 25 grams of flour that you want to keep, you turn it all into hash or whatever. And that way, if you're out and about carrying, if you're going through more than a gram of hash a day, that's definitely high usage. And 25 grams, you could get yourself up to that point where you can grow and produce a pretty good amount of bubble hash or rosin or whatever it is that's your fancy.
Yeah.
And so I think you've got a good perspective on it. It's good to be positive, and it's good to see the light side of things, because at least now you have access to growing a couple of plants, and rosin will take you a long way. It's very potent, and when you grow your own and you start making your own rosin or hash, bubble hash, it is definitely a great way to stay medicated for a long time. Speaking of staying medicated, what about Bob asked a question earlier? Wonder if cannabis is involved in mainstream medicine anywhere in Europe. I was 40 years old when a neurologist first mentioned cannabis as option over big pharma drugs, maybe Eastern medicine only. So he's curious if maybe it's part of German history, or if there's been any sort of concoctions in the past other than recent history, maybe uses of it around there or other areas, maybe in Europe that you're aware of.
A very good question, because Germany historically had a quite rich tradition of hemp growing, and there are many old books, like pharmacists' books, that have different concoctions, like different extracts of plants and cannabis in it. It was used for insomnia, pain. They called it nervous conditions in those times, were also a part of that. And that all got prohibited, I think, around the same time it got prohibited in America. The whole what was he called? William Randolph Hearst, the guy who was actively lobbying very
Yeah,
much
he had
against
the
that.
printing presses and things like that, and he has distributed a bunch of, let's just be honest, it was racist propaganda that made a lot of people anti-hemp and cannabis generally. And
Yeah, I've seen
dark
those
history.
movies where they're like, if you smoke cannabis, you want to be with black guys, and
That's a good impression, man.
it
That's
makes the
good.
women fornicate. It's very bad.
And you'll kill your family.
And then there's like a woman taking one puff and
Jumping out
then
the window.
jumping out of the window. Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that's stuff I think we were subject to too. But people always had like when it was illegal, the primary mode of having it was like hash. I think we got a lot of Moroccan hash, Afghan hash that was smuggled in, and like I know stories from my grandfather who like his friends smoked like hash in the 70s.
Well, traditionally that was the thing that was moved the most was because it was so not so it was easier to move and to hide hash than flour, and it's more
For sure.
concentrated and it was worth more.
And you could drop it into a cigarette. And a lot of people roll their own cigarettes over there, and spliffs were probably more common. My brother, when he went to
They
Spain, he
still
said
are
he could
common
find
over there, I
hash,
can
not
tell you.
flour.
Yeah.
That's the case still to this day. So our German friend.
No. Now you can find flour more easily.
Good.
Even since like when I started, maybe 2017 or so, it was more common to have flour. But right around maybe a little bit before the pandemic, even there were very big cartels importing it. And they did some really, really bad stuff. That's why many people started home growing. They used synthetic cannabinoids. They used lead. They used glass. They used like spray that would make it smell like skunk or something like that. Or hairspray on the buds and shit like that. And so I for instance wouldn't smoke anything from the black market because it is likely to be contaminated, and I don't want like weird shit in my lungs. So no, thank you.
Yeah, you never
I
know.
agree.
They don't give a shit about random people. Like you were saying earlier, like that random person that called you looking for some. It's like they're just looking to score some and flip it and make a little cash. Like they don't know what has been put on it, how you grew it. Some people might follow you and be like, "Oh wow, this is whatever." If you have like an Instagram or something, I'll get DMs. Hey bro, I'm in this state. Let me get a pound and we could turn it over for this much and let's move this, make some fast cash. And I'm just like, I don't even know you. You could be a Fed. Like I'm not gonna ship. It's illegal to ship from California to any other state. So I would never. Just gonna put that out there for all the Instagram trappers that do
It probably
contact
is a
me whenever I
fad.
post it. Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I'll
I mean,
just be
come
like,
on.
I always say the same thing. Let me teach you how to grow. And they always get real salty. I'm like, I'll teach you how to grow. I could send you seeds legally. It's with the hemp. I'm like, you can choose if you want to break your local laws, but I'll teach you how to grow. It's nothing illegal about me educating you. But if I sent you cannabis, I'm breaking all the fucking laws. But if I teach you how to do it, then you can choose to do whatever you want. And that's one of the beautiful things for sure. So speaking of legal, Donkey Populous again with a great question asked, is it full on legal for everyone, or is it like here where in some states some of us can use and others still have to hide it?
It is federally decriminalized. So up to the certain amounts that I talked about earlier, you are free to use cannabis in any way, shape, or form, except for when driving a car. But you can, for instance, smoke and then ride a bike, which you cannot do with alcohol. If you drink alcohol, you are from a certain point on not allowed to ride the bike. You can be as high as a kite and ride the bike. I mean, if you feel like you start floating, then
Love
you
that.
should probably not ride the bike. And you will, I mean, if you
I
smoke
say
some
ride the
indica, you
bike.
won't be able to, but yeah. Riding a bike high is really nice,
It is
really
quite a
floaty.
sensation. I mean, riding a bike sober is admittedly quite, if you get going fast enough, or you're up and down a hill, or if the weather is nice, or if you're in a nice setting. So just like cannabis does with everything else, I think it just helps us better appreciate like how good the food tastes, or how funny the movie or comedy is, and that how great the music sounds. You might pick up the little sounds in the background that you didn't notice before. So even riding through the same street you always go down, it's like, oh wow, I never noticed my neighbor's house had that coat of paint, or they must have added something new. That color looks great on whatever that car. It just gives you maybe a little more positive outlook. So it's I'm glad people of Germany have that. I think I visit Berlin and I had a great time. I spent like 24 hours in Germany. It was very short and sweet, but I really had a great time. Everybody I met was wonderful. But I think everybody can use the uplifting feeling of cannabis in their country, and the people that choose to use it for whatever reason. I think medical use definitely has its place, but I think even just for like recreational or adult use, there's a lot of people that just it's a safe, healthy, effective way for somebody to get a little stress relief and relax and have some fun, and maybe better connect with their friends and family.
Oh yeah, and especially like if you go on a run, for instance, I used to have a circle of guys who came by and we all saved up grinder keef and then put it in the Storz and Bickel vaporizer. We'd hit the bags like going in, and then we used to go on a like 45-minute jog, fast pace, because I think like for instance, particularly when you use the vaporizer, it kind of opens up your bronchioles or what it's called, and then you run high as a kite. You're kind of floating. We ran through the woods because in the city where I live, we have the biggest the biggest city forest of Europe. And so then we came back. We took a like really nice shower. The shower afterwards was gorgeous. And yeah, then it was all about making a really nice chicken dish or something like that. That's a fun activity, I'll tell you. If you haven't tried it, you are to try it if your knees allow it, and otherwise use a bike.
Or go for a swim if you're capable.
Mm,
Even like a walk through some water if you're capable of doing that. Just getting your body moving, getting your blood flowing. I think it amplifies the high. It helps you feel those endorphins that people talk about, the runner's high, even more. It's like a
yeah.
entourage effect of the runner's high plus the cannabis high plus the Shinrin Yoku, as they call it in Japan, the forest bathing, running through the woods. You're getting pinene, you're getting all the other natural effects, the sunshine that's maybe on your skin, the wind that's blowing, and things like that. They all, I think, are part of the human element that people fail to recognize sometimes. And yeah, it makes life so much better, and it
And
just
also
amplifies.
sun exposure. I don't know, but we always say that here in Germany that if you're like in a room and you hit something and then you go out in the sun, you get like way more blasted.
I agree. I think it's
Like wakes you up or something too.
I also think it's we get Eagle Gardens had a great point on this. It's like, and also Hoda Herb, who mentioned that like it's a little bit of nature in a glass. Like if you hit it inside, it'll kind of transport you to nature a little bit. But if you go out in nature, like I'm in inside my place right now, and everything is the same. It's stagnant. I can't. I mean, I got a little bit of natural light coming in, but the second I walk outside, like the sky, the sun, the plants, it's so much. Everything changes a little bit each day. You know, there's growth, there's change, there's birds, there's lizards and shit. There's all sorts of life around, and it's the stagnant environment. Like, is sometimes we get these deja vu when it's the same place or the same setting. it's more easy to have a deja vu because so much is controlled, like an indoor environment. Where when you go outside, it's just the wildness of nature is much less predictable. And I think that cannabis helps us tune into that, where we might just ignore it otherwise. And it's one of the great connectors and things that I'm happy cannabis pushes people out more into nature because as a society across the world, we've all become more shut in to our homes, onto our computers, our phones, our laptops, tablets, cell phones, etc. So it's good to get outside. And I do think whether it's the sun exposure or all the changing elements, I think even just standing up, like if you sat down on your couch and you're sitting smoking, standing up and like going to the other room to do something, you're like, wow, I'm way higher than I thought I was. So it can changing set and setting is a big thing with any drug, but
I
cannabis
can attest to
specifically.
that effect, definitely, definitely. Or sometimes if you're smoking a really, really high indica strain, your the couch gets so deep, it's like a bottomless pit. You're trying to get up, and it's like, oh my God.
We had this
But
negative cannabis campaign here where there was like a woman who is literally flattened. I'll try and pull it up in the background and share the screen, but she's like literally flattened to the couch.
yeah, yeah, I know that
And a
one
lot of
where
them are
she's
BS.
deflated.
Yes, she's deflated, literally like flat onto the couch. And it's like a lot of the kind of anti-cannabis campaigns are ridiculous. That one, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of relate. Some stuff does make you feel like you're literally glued to the couch. Like Gorilla Glue, people say glues you to the couch or indica, into couch. It's
Yeah,
those stigmas sometimes hold true. If you smoke some potent shit, it's gonna make you want to just relax. And it's hard to get up. One of the first times I smoked, I felt like I was sitting on a boat drifting away. It's like the TV kept getting further away. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe the
yeah.
effect.
One time I was with the guys once again, and we were having like a bong for dabs. What we used some very good quality hash in once again a vape. I primarily vape. I rarely smoke flower. And we kept smoking and smoking, and then all of a sudden we started communicating in pig noises for 45 minutes straight, which was really weird because we were so relaxed that our throats were so malleable, let's say, that we were all on the same level of high, so that we communicated via pig noises. But one guy was so high that he was sitting in a corner, and he was making pig noises constantly, not communicating with anyone. He was just so in a bubble that he was just sitting there and doing like all the time. So yeah, but that was quite an experience. And then after like 45 minutes, we said like, yeah, let's talk again.
Gotta have good times with the buddies. I
What was the
always love.
conversation like with the pig noises though? What were you guys saying?
Oh, it was like just like a combination of mimic expressions and then varying the pitch to formulate either a question, a command,
But was everyone
or
serious in the moment, or were you guys laughing?
it was like a sinus wave where where it was very serious, and then it was very, very, very funny because
It's funny just hearing about it.
yeah, yeah, because it was like one guy was asking for like a glass of water or something, and then he would like make that pitch going up at in the end of a question sound.
Right, like
And
what did you say?
because you understood, and I think he wasn't even pointing, and because I understood what he meant, I suddenly was reminded of the absurdity of the situation we were in, and that was extremely funny. And then at other times, it was just kind of, I don't know, when somebody makes a melancholic pig noise and you feel it.
A melancholy pig noise. I'd love it.
Animals, they do make it's funny that you can attach an emotion to it, but they're definitely different. The grunts, the groans, the oinks, whatever you want to call them. But any animal from horses, cats, dogs, pigs, uh, cattle, they all make different sounds. And It's funny when I would get really, and still to this day, sometimes, and maybe it's just because I like beatboxing and some of the music I listen to has it in there. If I get high enough, I'll just catch myself beatboxing, just like little stupid kind of. And like my one buddy would always call me out in high school for it. He'd be like, he's like, here's so and so over here, beatboxing on the couch. I'm just like sitting there beatboxing to myself. And sometimes it would work out because we do stupid little freestyle raps and just having fun. But there's so many different little things that I think it does bring out creativity. Like I'll hear music so clear in my head when I'm really nice and stoned. It's like I don't even, I can have it on the background. It's very nice, obviously. Better to play my vinyl over here. But I'll just be like walking around and it's like I can hear a song so crystal clear when I'm on the perfect high.
Yeah, I hear
And
more of a song when I'm high. Like, my best example of this is like, if you're familiar, like I used to play in a band when I was younger. And so for me, like an orchestra. So for me, like when I hear a song and I'm not high and I just hear it for the first time or whatever, I hear the main melodies and all of that or whatever. But when I'm high, I hear like, oh, there's a background hi-hat that I never heard at this part, or oh, there's a little cello part right there that I never even heard before. But then after that point, I hear it every time, whether I'm high or not. So it's something about it enhances my senses or whatever for sure. I believe that 100%. I enjoy music way more. And I enjoy music anyway, but I enjoy it even more when I'm high.
Yeah. If you're in a room which like with dimmed lights, and then you have maybe Comfortably Numb playing by Pink Floyd, and then you're like, oh, the strings, they're so gentle. And then, oh, that guitar solo, that's so magical. I cannot believe how did he write this?
Yeah, yeah,
it feels
exactly.
otherworldly and like emotional and it is we're kind of like joking about it, but when you're there, you definitely especially like live, I think going to see somebody live, if you've seen any of the
Especially
clips
when
from
some of these guys, like I went to see Billy Strings live, and there's sounds that he was making with that guitar that I didn't think a guitar could make. I'm like, what is he playing right now? What is going on? And it's stuff like that that blows your mind.
I saw a
But
no name guy in high school, just at a talent show in my local high school, and he played this fucking freestyle. It was like Freebird level of fucking insane, like guitar solo. I was like, I can't even believe this guy I knew. I just like went to school with him. He went up there and just fucking shredded like the most, and ended up doing like some stuff with like the school band and other things where he performed. But I like looked at his YouTube recently and like didn't ever make it any claim to fame or whatever. But this dude's talented as fuck. And there's just some people out there. It's just like you could have unlimited talent, and if you just don't get picked up by the right group, sometimes you go unnoticed. The other thing I was gonna say is, if I didn't already mention it earlier, was like ad libs in songs. Sometimes somebody says like a little funny comment. Like Eminem back in the day would always have these little stupid kind of sounds or sound effects or comments that would be almost like a joke. And if you hear it, then it's like, oh, now every single time I hear that song, I hear that little joke or whatever. I wanted to ask Noah the grower if you, because we do have about 5 minutes left to the hour, if you wanted to show off the grow if you're in the garden at all, or if this was a good time or if you wanted to show it in
Yeah,
a few more
yeah, I'm
minutes.
getting ready right now.
Sounds good. Just wanted to do a little check in there because, like I said, we are coming up to that hour mark. Didn't want to think that we forgot about you over there. But yeah, talking a little music and grow, getting a little garden action here from Noah the Grower. I'm going to spotlight him for these next couple minutes before he heads out. Speaking of music, what concert are you going to if you don't feel
Yeah,
shy to share?
we're going to ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner. I let my kids pick it. It's an outdoor venue, so that's basically what it's all about. I even told them like, man, you guys know these guys are really old, but it's nostalgic. They want to, they just want to listen to some of the music. And I've seen Leonard Skinner, and it was just an okay show. That was a few years too ago, but yeah, that's what they picked, so that's where we're going.
It's funny. I was just literally mentioning Freebird, and I had no idea you were going to Leonard Skinner. So
Yeah,
that's a coincidence there. But
yeah.
I'm glad you're gonna get to go see both of them. ZZ Top's pretty awesome. Got to respect a man with an epic beard like that,
Oh
and
yeah,
great music as well.
yeah.
What are we looking at, Noah? It looks like the garden's restocked. You got some stuff coming. It came down a while ago, and you got stuff already reblooming and looking great.
Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to pull this down here in the next week, 10 days, something like that. These are duct tape. That one in the very back right here. This is Shervasio. And then I got wedding cake, There's another duct tape over there. I know that for sure. There's an Oreo over here, and then a couple Dosi Lottos, and then I don't really know what that one is. I can't remember. So, but yeah, I figured I'd go in here and show it off. I got this going right here. These ones to kind of jump started on this one, just because I've only been doing 2 lights in the summer just to give my old AC a break. But yeah, I've been listening along, and interesting to hear the whole Germany cannabis scene over there. My family is originally from Germany, so I am German quite a bit. So it's very interesting for me to listen to all that.
It is
Yeah,
cool.
kind regards, man. Kind regards. And make sure to keep a fire extinguisher at hand because that shit looks absolutely fire.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I do got one. So
Good advice, literally and figuratively. But
Yeah, I think you're growing under HPS, aren't you? So
oh yes, yeah. Everybody gives me crap, but one of these days I'll switch it up. But man, I do pretty good with it.
I'll
So
be the
it's
one
just
who kind
hard
of
to
says keep on rocking.
yeah.
I'm gonna be the one.
It's hard to rock the boat sometimes, but I'm having fun. So
I went to a car show recently and saw some of these a little bit of everything from like Woodies to muscle cars. And right now, like I think Laguna Seca, one of the top lap records, is from a 2006 Corvette. So it doesn't have to be the newest, shiniest thing to be very capable. So that just shows, I mean, and they're going up against literally people with like tuned top, whatever you could bring, the best of the best. That is beating 2024 technology. So that's almost 20 years old at this point. I don't think HPS is going anywhere for a little while. I know LED is unbelievable, and there's going to be people like Noah who can keep rocking it with HPS for many years to come.
yeah, this is I'm getting ready to hand water. I'm a hand water, and this is some pretty dark fertilizer that I'm pouring through these right here. These ones right here, I'm gonna way less because of how small they are. But then these ones right here, you know what I mean? Like I always say, I'm pouring just straight water for the last 2 weeks through it. Just wanted to show that. I don't just say that. That's what I do myself. But I like the clean ash gang, they call it. So
I'm about that too. Yeah,
yeah, why not, man?
Yeah.
that's what's up.
What size are those lights? No, are those 1,000 watters or are
Oh
they?
yeah, 1,000
Okay.
waters. Yeah, three. I got four. I actually got five, but I'm only running these three Magnum XXLs. Um, HPS, old Galaxy green ballasts. The old Galaxy green ballast right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, old school, man.
I'm gonna
Old
talk.
school.
I'm gonna talk to GML. I'm gonna see if we can get you a light. Now, we'll get you at least one light. You can put one in
Hey,
there. Swap one of them.
I would try it, especially if you're rocking it. Then whatever you got going on, I would just trust it. I would go with it. I would go with it. Hit me up anytime.
Well, what I'm thinking of is we got this new light. It's the 850 watts of HPS spectrum like that, and then it's got 150 watts, two different dimmers. Then it has 150 watts of just blue, so you could add blue in or take it away, whatever you want. But that would be like the best thing to mimic what you already have, so you could just straight up swap it.
Awesome.
So Noah, they wanted to know what media you're in before you're going.
Well, you know me. I use my everything is kind of like a hybrid. I start off with here. Let's see here. Well, yeah. Bio 365. I bought a pallet of that soil. I reached out to the local rep and they sent me 20 bags to sample. And I mean, I'll just tell you, it's way better than Ocean Forest. You know me, I don't ever plug nothing. But I'm just telling you that I bought a pallet. I bought a pallet of it. So they sent me the sample. I bought a pallet because the results, it was way better than what I used to use. I used Ocean Forest for a long time. So I use Bio 365, their actual BioAll, and then I put some live, living soil stuff in there. That's got biochar. It's got a bunch of really cool stuff that comes fresh out of the bag. And then I just do, organic inputs. I switch it up sometimes. Sometimes I use BioBiz. I like their line. It's fresh. It tastes good. Because guys know me. Like I said, when I
You're
say
not tasting your nutrients, so you know
He's
what.
talking about
Come
the
on.
flavor of
oh
the
no
flower at
no
the end.
no, oh absolutely not. I'm
Just
water
doing your shit,
only.
man.
With
Water only,
organic, you
man.
could eat some of the stuff though. You'd be fine.
Oh yeah, I'm all organic though. So, but hey, we definitely have to get together, and you know what I mean. One of these days, maybe it'll be legal to send. I would send each one of you guys, a sample, and I would love to get together one of these days. Las Vegas, just because we got cheap hotel rooms, it's kind of central to everyone. But I'm down for whatever, anytime.
I'm gonna be there in December, MJ BizCon, man. I'll be in
Nice,
Vegas.
nice.
Maybe we'll try and piggyback something on that because I think Doc and a few others are going to be. I think Matthew might be there for that. So
Oh,
maybe we'll,
nice.
if not this year, next year. I'm always pushing it back, but we'll see. With that said, Noah the Grower, it's that 1 hour mark. I don't want to make you miss Leonard
Yeah,
Skinner and ZZ Top. So why
yeah.
don't you let the people know where they can find you before you head on out?
Absolutely. I'm Noah the Grow with 2 E's on Instagram. Thanks for the guests. Thanks for all you panel members as always. And I had a blast. I'll see everybody next week. Have a great show the rest of the time. I'll see you guys next week.
Cheers, Noah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Have a good one, Noah.
Hey, you too, man.
Thank you to our guest for courteously allowing Noah to show off the garden there a little bit and answer a couple of questions himself. That was a nice little spotlight. Noah is definitely killing it. I'm curious, is HPS in use at all over there? Is it predominantly LED? Are there CMH?
CMH is ceramic metal halide.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find CMH. You will hardly find any HPS anymore. Up until 2018 or something, people were using it, but because of the cost efficiency, because of the light spectrum, and also because of the better visibility of the plants and also pests, etc., etc., all the people I know use LED grow lights, and also because of the heat emitting. So
It's definitely easier to control heat with LED. That's one of my favorite things. I switched to LED. I was originally an HPS grower back in the day, 600-watt HPSs. And then I switched to CMH when I first started growing my own. I did a little bit of outdoor sun grown greenhouse and stuff, but then I did CMH and I realized it's just too hot. I love the color of that light. I think they made it for like Hollywood or something, like because it's so true. It's almost like sunlight. It's white. You can see the plants. The plants seem to respond really well to it. They veg and even flower extremely well. I never grew anything that was subpar or even low quality under it, but the heat management is the main thing. And I had 315 watts, which is for like a 3x3 or 9 square feet in 3x1.5, which is like 5 square feet. So it was too much heat. And when I switched to LED, I properly sized things and got the plants a lot happier and healthier. We had another question from Cake in a Cup for you, who says, how many of the books behind you are for decoration, and how many of them have you read?
I've read a few of them, mostly old school novels. I like that. I like anatomy books. I like that stuff. That is not my personal library. That's my parents because I'm currently moving. That is their stuff. My mother reads quite a lot of novels. My father is more into, he's got a different niche hobbies like aviation and cars and stuff like that. So I'm into that a little bit as well, but I have a little bit less books. But I like to read, although I have to say that I've been consuming a lot of podcasts, and I must get back into the habit of reading and immersing myself in the experience again.
It's difficult because I do think podcasts offer a more engaging feeling and you're like watching and listening and there's more of a depth to it. But I do find great value in reading. I think some of the people take their entire life story and synthesize it down into a book of, 50, 100, 200 pages or whatever it is. And they might be an expert in their field, like, Henry Ford or something like that, right? Like some of these people, like autobiographies or biographies about these people are really enlightening into how they came to be. And very interesting, their interests and hobbies. And I love people that have a rich interest in reading. My parents were both educators, and my mom got me into reading early. So I've always been a big big fan of reading. I don't do it as much as I should now. More of it's on the one of my favorite terms is nightmare brick for one of these bad boys. But I do actually a lot of educational reading on my cell phone, and so it's a double-edged sword. It can be, wasted time on certain social media websites, just watching short videos and entertaining ourselves or distracting ourselves. But there is essentially the world's information out there for free in almost all fields. Like there's some things, companies hold trade secrets and patents, copyrights that they, keep within. But if you're looking for information on, how to do something electrical, how to do something on your car or on your grow light, or how to replant your pot or how to root clones, like there are guides. Like he was just saying, in German, they've already got the FPJ guides. They've got the, should you cover crop? Should you use mulch? What are the benefits of this versus that? Like they're having the same exact conversations we're having over here. It's just so refreshing to hear because 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. People were getting locked up for something as simple as cultivation. And I think we're moving in the right direction internationally. I'm actually refreshed to hear that it's a federal thing, that it's decriminalized. I wish we would follow the example of Germany. Hats off to Germany. We still haven't gone federally decriminalize it. So we have a hemp law that essentially federally decriminalized it because most police departments aren't going to test, is this 0.3 THC or is it 10? It just says like yes or no. It's like, is it cocaine or is it Adderall or is it cannabis? That's the extent of what they know. They don't have a, like expensive $50,000 lab equipment to say this has 21.7% THC. Like that's more complicated than the police departments need to get in 99.99% of cases. So it's actually been nice to see, like you're hopefully going to see less cases because the police realize this is stupid. Like we're going to argue over like, did he have 19 or 25 or 27 grams? Like when we arrested him, maybe he got tackled and it spilled out of his pocket and you lost a gram or two. Do we have to like stuff that back in his bag and weigh that? Are we weighing the plastic? Are we weighing the stems? Are we weighing the flower? Like, do we weigh the leaves? Like it gets so ridiculous. It's like, let them grow the plant like a tomato. But we do have to start at 25 grams and 50 grams. And I'm glad that they do let you have concentrate, even if it's not isolate or with like BHO. Having hash or rosin is a big deal because a lot of places don't actually allow any concentrate. California arrested Brandon over stuff just like that. So it's crazy. Even when it's semi-legal or quasi-legal or medical, there's still ways to get in trouble for it.
And you wouldn't, like, if you're not a crazy person, let's say like that, you wouldn't want 99% pure THC extract. I think the effects are a lot worse. You don't get an entourage effect. You don't get it's I think it's not great. You want to also avoid the route that there are big companies who just extract shitty stuff. And then you have an industrialized product. It would be like drinking wine versus drinking rubbing alcohol or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's similar or like a grain alcohol or Everclear or something that's just pure. Like nobody's going to the liquor store for the most part and buying those super high concentrated things to drink straight. I was one of those idiots in college who would take shots.
Except for the moonshiners.
Yeah, there's some wild folks out there.
I make the best moonshine around, man.
Got to ride the lightning. I'm from Ohio. There's definitely
lightning.
moonshiners out
Moonshine makes you four-wheel drive.
Oh man, moonshine's got quite the history.
Yeah,
They've got
I
like
love watching
fake
those
moonshine.
hillbilly shows.
They have fake moonshine here in California that they call moonshine, but it's like vodka with like cinnamon sticks in it and shit in like a mason jar. I'm like, this is not moonshine. You're calling this moonshine? Like, this is a slap in the face. Like, some people from the Midwest would slap this out of your hand. Like,
Yeah,
this is a mixed
you're
drink.
going to deeply offend a man from the deep south.
For sure.
Thankfully, they don't make it out to California. They've heard too many bad things on the news that are, partially true and sometimes and oftentimes not true at all. And it makes people resistant to want to come to this place that is very beautiful and has a rich culture, cannabis history, and so many other things.
But I'd still rather extract cannabis with moonshine than drink it.
I'm with you on that. It'll make your beard grow a
Yeah.
little bit longer, though.
Yeah, you make RSO with the moonshine. That's the way to go.
Essentially,
Yeah,
I
there you
mean, I'm
go.
using 420 extractor, which is like 190 grain ethanol or whatever. It's a alcohol that's food grade. I could essentially drink it if I wanted to. I don't want to. It catches on fire. So
Yeah.
beware of that.
It's like 190
One
proof.
190 proof, that's half the number of that is the percentage, isn't it?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
So it's way up there. The highest I've ever drank was I think it's Everclear is like 160 proof or something, like 80%.
There's two versions. There's 151 in states like Michigan and probably Ohio. Illinois, you can get the 190 there.
I know
That's
in Nevada you
uh,
could get it, and I think people bring it back. They got like a
yeah. When
handle
I
of
go
it.
out to Illinois, I grab 190 and bring it back, and I use that.
Yeah, we would take shots of that stuff in college. It's terrible.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine.
Like a quad shot, you know those tall ones, the pirate shots that are like four shots on top of each other. Ugh,
Yeah, no
Yeah,
fun.
in
stupid, stupid.
Germany we're accustomed to such behaviors. But I never was into drinking, so I don't know. I kind of got scared off because I saw people falling off the wagon, so to say, not finishing their education, becoming weird in their personality. And so I didn't like the effects either. So I dodged that bullet.
It's a good move.
I'm
Good
with
move.
you on it. My culture in Ohio and family were big on it, and I dipped my toe and my leg, and I jumped all the way in the pool. I tried all of them and everything, and just cannabis was for me. Like I was just at a wedding last weekend, and then I was drinking wine and everything that was handed to me. I just said yes to because it was like my best friend's wedding. So I drank wine, I drank a vodka cranberry, I drank shots of tequila that they weren't allowed to give you a shot, so they put ice in it to like slow people down or whatever. But it got a little bit messy. I'll say some people drank too much alcohol. They were not drinking responsibly. I was on the verge of that, but I'm like the guy who drinks like a water between every single one and like spaces it out, eats food, tries to, not black out ever again, because those are not fun nights. But on the cannabis side of things, we had a good question from actually, it was asked earlier. See, person one asked if there was any iconically German strains, and to kind of go back to earlier, I think you mentioned that they're mainly from Amsterdam seed banks and nothing quite notable of Germany just yet. But I don't know. You never know. Maybe there's some person out there who's holding some deeply held their grandparents, grandparent. I worked with this client of mine for years now, and then like just last week they're like, "Oh yeah, I use cannabis." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like whatever. I didn't, to me it's not. I don't reel that I use it, but I'm just like, yeah, it's safer than a lot of other options. And then the next week I was like, where do you get it from? Like, are you getting it from like a shop? Like, how do you go about acquiring it? And they're like, oh, like my grandpa grows it and I smoke it with my mom. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, you're good, man. Like, I don't need to go any deeper into this. But I'm almost like, I almost wonder what's grandpa growing? I gotta have that conversation with that mom at some point. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those
And then
weird,
he has like the original skunk and he's the
that's what I'm
OG.
saying.
You never know.
There's some stuff around here, man, and I really think that's like one of the places that you'll find it. And the old folks cabinet that have been growing for multiple generations, and maybe their kids don't, but um, at least the daughter smokes, and so does the grandson now. So very healthy people, very cool, good group. But yeah, it's interesting to see multi-generational. Are you aware of any elderly people getting into cannabis use for medical reasons? I think it's become popular here, and I know maybe internationally that's become a thing as well.
I think the people who are established in their life and haven't tried it aren't that inclined to try it. Because I mean, their neuroplasticity maybe isn't as um, plastic anymore. They don't seek out the novelty thrill anymore. So I don't know of any older people having tried it, like from my parents' generation or anything yet,
Yeah,
from my personal experience. Um, I'll just keep my ear open. I'll ask around. Maybe if I have something, I can inform you guys. And regarding strains, I don't know. I don't know anyone really. who is an evil German cultivator or breeder or anything like that.
What were like
But
the harshest punishments back in the illegal days? If you were cultivating your own cannabis, like what would be your penalty back in the worst 20 years ago? Like, are they throwing you in jail? Are they, is there a death penalty?
yes, definitely there is no death penalty in Germany since the end of World War II. Our constitution got rewritten. There is no death penalty. The prison sentences are really fair. The system is really, really focused on you being reintegrated into society. So you'll get an education if you want in prison. It's actually sometimes mandatory. And if you want to reduce your sentence, for instance, and you do an education that will help you greatly, stuff like that. But regarding cannabis, you could go to prison up to like 10, 15 years, but that was only if you're pushing like tons. But in Bavaria, like that one guy with the added up 1.3 grams, he got 10-month imprisonment and then was released after 5 months because
Like
he
good
had a good
behavior?
good behavior, good conduct, wasn't actually a criminal, was just a normal guy, you know. But yeah, all
It
the
sounds more
cannabis,
reasonable than here. We had people like one, two, three joints or whatever, like a couple grams. They'd be in jail for 30 years, like murder sentences. Like they were getting
there
life
are,
sentences.
yeah, people in Las Vegas, particularly, I heard, who are still imprisoned up till this day for minuscule amounts of cannabis, which was just like Mexican brickweed, bushweed type of, you know, you need to smoke 3 grams to feel something, but they're imprisoned for a majority of their lives. And if you just think about that, um, I cannot think of any rational argument why you wouldn't just pardon them. Because all the people with non-violent cannabis offenses in Germany now on April 1st have been pardoned when the new law came out. So I would hope for any politician in like the States or other countries to maybe take that as an example and reevaluate if the justice system is set up the right way. But I know there are some, um, let's say, economic reasons in America with the private prison system, etc.
Conflicts of
Continue.
interest is what we call that.
Yeah. Sorry, my English is a little bit rusty because I
No, no, your
hardly
English
ever
is
talk.
fine. It's just
English is very good, honestly.
your English is amazing. Way better than my
Oh,
German.
thank you.
Way better than my German by a million
Way better
percent.
than my German.
Yeah, you speak English perfectly. I haven't heard you even say one thing that I would be like, that wasn't clear. You've been speaking perfectly clear. I was just saying what you were describing is exactly true. We have a conflict of interest between the fact that our prisons make money off of people being in jail. So they like to lobby and pay our politicians to make sure that we don't have federal decriminalization and things like that. And they want to keep these people in prison because they essentially make money off of those heads and beds and those three hots and a cot, whatever they're, making garbage food or whatever. And they have these people working them and doing some sort of menial job or whatever, but they're getting paid cents on the hour, not dollars like the
Yeah.
minimum wage. So it is an unfortunate system. And it's tragic when you see people locked up in it. In California, they pardoned all of the nonviolent cannabis criminals, but for flower, they didn't include concentrate. Brandon was like in while it happened. And I met him a year after he had just gotten out and it was like legal for you. And he's like, but I was still in because I had been using BHO or whatever. And it sounds like Germany kind of has a similar, they don't want people to be manufacturing with chemicals or things that could be
Yeah.
explosive or flammable, et cetera, because there are risks and dangers. So at least if they're trying to regulate, it seems like they're trying to do it in a sensible direction. No, nothing's perfect. Obviously, we'd like to just have it be completely free as huge advocates over here. But at the same time, we have to accept I can never get the quote just right, but like a hell of a lot better than it was before is better than, waiting for something perfect. And so if you can get your foot in the door, it usually just keeps moving in the right direction. Once you get that first legal policy, then it is like a domino effect. Your 25 grams in 2 years, 5 years will be 100 grams, right? And then you'll have unlimited plant access and plant count. They'll say, hey, however much space you have within your house or outside your house if it's not in plain view or whatever, if you're not within a school district or something like that. So it's just going to be like every other state that's gone legal, medical, and then adult use or recreational. It continues to move in one direction. It's a very, once the genie's out of the bottle, I think people, it's like hard to keep it illegal when it's like you have in Las Vegas's case, people locked up for maybe 30 years or life sentences when they're now legally selling it and profiting off of it. And the city and states are making millions. So it's like you have people locked up for, and it's, I get it, laws change and whatever, but I agree with you. I think the governors of those states, because federally, all of the federal cannabis crime has already been expunged. So there's been multiple times where they've expunged all the federal nonviolent cannabis crimes, but that really doesn't actually let anybody out. It just cleaned up a few records. And what we need is the state governors to go through and give pardons on state crimes, which were possession and things like that, cultivation.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and you also did something with the scheduling, didn't you? Because beforehand it was
They're
a
working on
Schedule 1.
yeah, they're working on scheduling it from 1 to 3 possibly.
Mm.
But they're still working on it, and they've already pushed that back till after the elections. So we'll see what they do with that.
It becomes a carrot
Oh
that gets
no.
dangled,
Yeah.
sadly.
It's just we're
Yeah.
our politics works excruciatingly slow sometimes too. That's for sure. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
before we run out of time, what's the commercial model look like over there? How are they allowing the grows and the I don't think they're even called dispensaries. Or how's that whole
Good
model work? I know they
question.
have a medical system, but is there a rec system as well? And how's that whole thing work?
So the medical system, you'll get like the imported flower, or now the mostly Canadian and now German flowers coming on the market, but it's very dry because of mold regulations, and I think it's mostly irradiated stuff because they say, oh, if it's over 12% moisture content, then mold is going to grow and you're going to get pneumonia or something like that. So that is not so great. But what you're referring to is there are no dispensaries or anything like that. They're called cannabis social clubs, basically growers associations. But not many people, like what you said in the last episode. I made sure to educate myself on that a little bit. There are not multiple people, like private people participating in the grow. You can become a member of a cannabis social club, and there are professionals growing a variety of strains. You can
Okay,
request the strains of your choice to be grown, for instance, and then you can purchase, if you're over the age of 25, I think, up to 50 grams a month, and up to 30 grams at one visit from that cannabis social club. And if you're under the age of 25, I think, or 21, I'm not sure on that, sorry. But then you're going to be able to purchase 30 grams monthly. And the system came on July 1st, but it's a more state level thing. So the states regulate how the cannabis social clubs operate in each state with a federal law framework. So it's complicated jurisdiction
so
matters.
is it possible for a citizen of Germany to be a member of more than one social club and then be able to purchase?
No.
Okay, so they can only be a member of one club. So they
Yes.
only have the ability to purchase from that one club. They couldn't purchase at another club unless they quit their membership at this club and they joined that other club. Then they could purchase from that club. Is that true?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And one club has a maximum amount of members of 500 people.
Okay, 500.
So
That's a good amount.
yeah, yeah. Um, and it's a little bit tricky at the moment because they still work out how it's going to be regulated. So, for instance, in one state, let's take North Rhine-Westphalia as an example. So, the first plan was that the municipalities are in charge, but they rejected the offer due to lack of capacity, basically. They claimed, because, which I don't really trust, because bureaucrats are notorious for punching in the clock. And when I, for instance, get like my visa to go somewhere, or I see them taking an awful lot of coffee breaks. But that aside,
Oh yeah.
so the states in the federal system took charge of that first wave. So in North Rhine-Westphalia, for instance, you need to contact the district government, which basically regulates like youth protection stuff and makes sure that everything you have is legal and ISO 9000 laboratory approved. I don't know. And then you need to contact the state office for nature, environment, and consumer protection. And they also do some testing and make sure that everything is proper. And then you have to also contact the agricultural chamber for licensing and other stuff of that nature.
So it's probably not
And
attainable from just a normal, regular person. It's going to take heavy investment to be able to do something like that.
it takes heavy investment, but it's an altruistic non-profit model.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So it's a
Now it's getting
little
silly.
bit, there are few and far in between, because you need to be like,
Okay, so that just fixes the price of cannabis to really low. So you become nonprofit by making the
yeah,
end
You don't know how
product cheap.
nonprofits work, at least if they're anything like America. Doesn't
Yeah,
mean the
well, that's
prices will be low.
that.
They'll
Yeah,
crack the prices way up and they'll just write off expenses at the end of the year.
but then
yeah,
your
yeah.
your club, your next nearest club is your competitor, and they will, if they have lower prices than you, then who's going to sign up for you?
Yeah, and I don't know how it's regulated. I'm sure because it's Germany, it's going to be extremely clean, but I don't know about, for instance, moisture content. I mean, you want like 55 to 65% relative humidity to have that mono layer of water so you can preserve the terpenes and or the volatile compounds and stuff like that. And maybe they have to dry it then. I'm not exactly sure on how that works. But yeah, it's not ideal. I think we'll get there eventually. But I'm also kind of glad about it a little bit because it really makes people do home grows.
Right. I
Yeah,
like
it
that
sounds like the
about it.
tents are flying off the
I
shelf.
like that about it, but the only downside really I see to that, and I think it's mostly upsides, and I like it, is that and this is very situational, I guess, but somebody like me that I travel a little bit, right? And sometimes it's not possible for me to travel, like for instance, on an airplane with cannabis. But if I were to fly, go to another town even in Germany, it sounds like I wouldn't be able to walk into a place and just pick up cannabis because I'm stuck to only getting it at one place. I wonder if those clubs
That's a very good point.
can the clubs have multiple locations, or is it they're stuck to just one location?
They're stuck to one location and one
Yeah,
location
wow.
only. So if you're in Germany, um,
So for tourists, then there's not
You got to do
enough.
your
yeah,
No.
research in advance.
they want to also prevent the cannabis tourism of, for instance, the Netherlands.
Well, that'll do it. That'll do it because there'll be no way for a tourist to legally get cannabis. They'll push them to the streets to get it.
Well, with
Yeah.
Spain and
But
the
if
other
you're in
places,
Germany, allegedly you'll get good cannabis.
I was in Germany and I had plenty of friends show up with cannabis, so it wasn't impossible to get. There's plenty of cannabis to be had in Germany. I will attest to that.
can you have raw
You were in
milk?
Berlin?
Yeah, we were in Berlin. Yep. We had
Great. Yeah, that's
edibles.
the cannabis capital.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, we had all kinds of edibles and flour too.
Berlin is an amazing city. I can't remember what, I think I went in 2016, 2017, but incredible. It wasn't the cannabis. It might have been secretly back then, but I was just there for 24 hours and I didn't have connections back then. So, um,
It was crazy back then. Yeah, there were like fake pizza shops you could call, and they would have like a menu, and you would say, "Oh, I want the pepperoni pizza," and they would come by, and then you would get like a certain strain, for instance.
that's awesome. We did that in California as well.
Love that.
Some would be like a pizza place and you'd be like, "Oh, I want triple cheese on that pepperoni pizza." And instead of being a $10 pizza, it became like a $35 pizza. And then like it came with like the eighth as well or whatever, like tucked in the bag on top or something. And it's just a interesting way of going about things. Unfortunately, people are still kind of hiding in some regards then. One thing I was curious is like, because it makes me think of, at least in the US, we have regulations on like raw food versus pasteurized food. Like milk is one that comes to mind, and there's like orange juice and things like that. If you grow your own oranges, you can make your own juice and drink it. It doesn't have to be pasteurized, right? You can get actual fresh hand squeezed orange juice at home, or you can go to certain places and get it, but it's under a different regulation. Is raw milk legal, and is there certain regulations like that in the food markets there?
If you go directly to the farmer, you can get it. It is not legal to be sold as well in Germany if it's not homogenized and pasteurized, I think, because you could possibly get an infection. But if you step outside your door, you could also like get the bubonic plague. You're never safe out there, and I think that people should be able to have a choice of what they put in their body and have an informed choice. So I'm not all for that, but definitely it is similar to the US. I mean, many things are similar, but we're a little bit more protected than you guys regarding GMO or like fortified cereals where they spray folic acid on the rice or corns, and many people don't have the methylation pathway to actually process folic acid. They would need methylfolate, and they don't, because it's expensive, they don't put that on the rice and stuff of that nature. So many people who have celiac disease, for instance, can eat bread in Europe because it's non-fortified. Although there are some, I don't like the European Union because they do shenanigans. I think power corrupts absolutely. Power corrupts absolutely, and the bigger the organization, the bigger the threat of that happening. And they have some things going on where they're like, oh, maybe in the future we are not to declare certain GMO shit because the people, you know, wouldn't notice anyway, and it's science and we know better. And so I don't know, but generally it works. It's good. You can get good stuff here. And if you want organic produce, for instance, it is not as expensive for like in California. Like I was living in California for like 6 months after after I graduated from high school. I was visiting relatives who fled after World War II to the US. They live in Santa Rosa, California. And then I was at like I don't know what it was called. I think Oliver's, like a Whole Foods type situation, and I was trying to get good food, and I was like racking up food bills like $600 a month, and I was like, oh my God, that's so expensive if you want to get like organic stuff. At least at that period of time in California, it was mind-boggling.
It's even
That
worse
was,
now.
yeah,
I'll tell
yeah.
you, it's only gotten worse. My wife and I have spent more on food in certain months than rent, which is
Yeah, yeah.
insane.
It was also the year that Subcool lived in Santa Rosa, California, and the year and the exact period I was living there, there was the Tubbs fire, and that was really shitty. And I mean, all his stuff burned up basically, and I was in that same fire. I just noticed that.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah, that was I think the biggest wildfire in California up till that point, and then in 2018 it got topped. But yeah, that
got
was
worse
really weird.
2019 and got worse 2020. Uh, One thing people don't like to talk about is it was Governor Jerry Brown cut our forest management budget from $52 million to 1.8. It's like a $50 million cut so that they're not managing any of the dead shrubs and trees. So when a forest fire starts, it was way worse and got way worse every single year after. So we definitely fucked up on that front by having him in office. And the guy after him, I don't think is necessarily doing the best, but not to be political, but that is part of the reason. It's mismanagement.
I
Um,
noticed that it was very distinct because I was like, there are all these very, very dry trees not being cut back right next to the power lines, and then there was a dry wind. And I noticed the multiple fires breaking out simultaneously in the city because all these pine trees and etheric oil filled things were touching the power lines, and then it was quite an inferno. It was an interesting experience, so to say,
it's like hell on
because
earth.
you,
I feel bad
yeah,
for anybody who has to
yeah,
go through it. It's scary as hell. It's chaos. It looks worse than the movies would depict. It's like you almost can't even believe it's a reality if you've been close to one. It's a nightmare
yeah, yeah.
situation.
I was quite lucky because the area that Santa Rosa, I think, got hit extremely hard. Many, many houses burned down. And the house I was previously living in, I moved out like 5 days earlier and stayed with another relative of mine. But a lot of my stuff burned up, which I still had there. And it was really fascinating in a not so good way to see the people acting under distress and being like local residents that were living there were asking me like, "Oh, where is Mendocino Avenue?" And I was like, "Oh, it's over there," because I wasn't mentally as invested in it because I didn't have any property there. So bad. And then you also saw like we're all hanging on a thin thread, and we should be really grateful for every good day that we have. And it's a wonder that our society works as well as it does, and that we're even having these conversations like we're having right now about something that enhances our lives and maybe gives us joy or relief, and we can work on improving that, while the very structure of what we believe to be so, how do I say it, self-evident and convenient is actually not convenient and self-evident, but a vast system of interconnecting links that keeps us all warm and dry and healthy, and sometimes we lose track of that.
And how fragile the system can be. One link can go down, and then all of a sudden, thousands or millions of people don't have power or clean water. Or, I'm with you. I think it's good to be grateful and not take for granted how good we have got it in many respects. And not to say that we shouldn't continue to push for improvement where we're slacking, but at the same time, being thankful for when we're not experiencing wildfires. We've just had a couple within the last few months around here, and the air quality drops. It is terrible. It's has so many downstream effects, and it's a crazy amount of work to get them under control. And sometimes it's literally just like asshole arsonists. Some dude went out there and fucking started lighting these fires. It's like, what the fuck? Like posting it on TikTok. Come on. Like, really, that's where we are as a fucking society. You're trying to get some views on social media. You're gonna ruin your life and so many others. And the animals too, like people have to just let their horses out of the barn in some cases and just let them run and hope. So it has
Well,
huge
you do
impact.
have to take a little responsibility as just another human in the world. Also, is like, if you don't like somebody like that doing things like that, don't be part of the problem and watch that shit, and which gives them money, is which the whole reason they're out there doing it. Because if they weren't supporting themselves on TikTok or whatever platform, if they didn't have people watching them, they wouldn't be doing it anymore. So
Yeah, I
vote
think in
with
this case he had
you
like
with your views.
10 views.
Yeah, vote with your dollars and views.
No, I'm with you on that. Be careful what you support and be careful even what you give your attention to. Like unfortunately, Instagram won't show me any cannabis content. If I scroll past an ad and it has somebody like in a car, I'll get a bunch of car photos for that day. And then the next one has somebody in a bikini. And then I get a bunch of bikini photos in my discovery. When I actually see the posts of people I follow, it's weed photo, meme, weed photo, somebody with a plant, somebody with, a harvest, whatever. It's like I follow 7,500 growers, but all they want to show me is whatever the fuck is on hot on their algorithm trend or whatever. It's like you don't even have to look at it long. It's like crazy how quickly it'll change. I'll like set my phone down and forget, and I'll have an ad playing, and then I'll just get nothing but that for the whole week. And it's just like I don't even use that app anymore just to answer DMs and things like that. But I will say we'll have to do like a I think not medically fit episode because he sent me so many links. I'm just going to go through and like make them all topics for us to talk about in the future because he's definitely sent me some great information over the years. And hopefully it sounds like there's people like him in your community that are spreading the knowledge and getting the good information out to the new growers. Because if tents are flying off shelves, that means that people are trying. They're getting out there and doing home growing. And what percentage of Germany would you say speaks English?
Um, Maybe it depends on the level. We all have mandatory English from fourth grade on, or no, third grade on. So when you're like 9 or something, you start learning English, and then you have to choose a second foreign language as well, which I was never into. I wasn't really good at English, to be frank, until I discovered YouTube at like 14. So then I started watching YouTube videos, and that's how I learned English basically. Because I never paid attention. I wasn't a school guy. I avoided my homework as well as I could, and wasn't really. I was always interested and really curious about all sorts of stuff, but I was very disagreeable. So I think many people learn through the internet and YouTube and content creators, but that's how I learned English. And I think that then it got a little bit refined because I was right after my high school diploma. I was in the US for approximately 6 months, but now for uh, yeah, like 7 years, I speak like once or twice a year when I call a relative or something. But I listen to quite a lot of English content, like your guys' show or something like that. Many podcasts. I have my phone set on English because it's more convenient. So I don't think many people have a level of maybe proficiency that I have, although I wouldn't consider myself proficient. But
You're extremely proficient. I would disagree. You're speaking clear as day, and we've had pretty deep conversation, and you've used a fairly wide vocabulary. So like the fact that I love that you learned through YouTube, and I was a lot like you in school, disagreeable to the whole process, and
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit of a troublemaker at times. But it it's great that we can learn from other methods. Content creation being one, and I can't explain how many people somebody taught told me they learned English by watching Superman, Christopher Reeves. They just watched it over and over and over, and they learned every single word in that. And eventually, that like spread into them learning English by watching other content. So it's an amazing fact that that can happen. I will have to pass the mic over here for a second to Spartan Grown because he's gonna potentially get going to Michigan Bros Grow Show in about 15 minutes. So I want to give him the mic for a few minutes if he wants to ask you any final questions or any final thoughts and shout outs before you get running.
No, I just want to shout out our guest. Thank you for coming on and answering the call out of chat. I love that. I love us saying, hey, I saw some comments in chat and you agreed to come on. I think that's just awesome. Very next show too. So thank you for coming on and answering all our questions. I know it can be a little not only nerve-wracking, but the time difference is a little rough too. So thank you for taking time to do this. Thank you for chat for tuning in. And thank you, Jack, for doing this. And thank you, Kyle, who was here. Appreciate everybody's time. Much love to everybody. Keep growing. And I will have the Mr. Bros Grow Show. I do believe it is tonight. So I'll see everybody there in about 15 minutes. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Spartan. Thank you.
Thank you, Spartan. Bye bye. Cool.
You are like
Yeah,
the
actually, it wasn't that nerve-wracking, I must say.
it's
In the
good. You've got
beginning, I was a little bit tingly in excitement, but I've listened to you guys for so many hours, allegedly while growing cannabis, maybe, but yeah, it just felt really familiar right away. So I wasn't really bothered in any negative way.
It's good. And honestly, I've met some people that listen to the show. I dropped off a book to somebody who lived in my city locally. I like noticed the address. I'm like, I'm not going to ship this. I'm going to go to their house. And then they lived in like a gated community, so I had to be like, the delivery was failed because they didn't have the code. Like I was making up some kind of official kind of thing. I didn't actually send it through the postal process, and they happened to be home when I went to go hand deliver it. So we got to chat for a bit. So that was a cool experience. But yeah, I'm curious, do you have like a statute of limitations, kind of like how in the US, like after like a few years, they can no longer get you for a crime? I think it's like 7 years for the big stuff. If murder, it's forever, right? They can do
Yeah,
a
yeah,
100 years
yeah.
ago, but
Same with us. But the
okay.
statute of limitations for growing cannabis is 3 years in Germany.
So in a couple years, everybody will get to come out and say like, here's all the strains, and my grandma was growing, or whatever, or grandpa or
Yeah,
whoever,
yeah.
if it was
That's
happening.
why I was able to tell you guys about my first grow and stuff. And it's been a really interesting journey. I started off using synthetics, and then I got into like what is it called? Like build a soil, Jeremy, the guy there. And then I got
Great.
it got really crazy because then I was like into soil chemistry and still am and stuff like that. And you get deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, but it's a passion, so you don't get bored or anything. It's like a spider web that grows wider and wider, and you're like, yeah, now I've got some information, and the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know anything at all, and that it's great.
There's that whole Dunning-Kruger effect. We learn a little bit and then we think we know a lot. And then it's like, oh my God, I actually don't know that much. And then like eventually
Yeah.
you realize like, oh, it's basically unlimited. And the beautiful thing with cannabis is like you can learn about the soil and then tap out that rabbit hole as much as you can. And then you can get into like, electrical and how to wire your own light and the efficiencies from one light to another and how to best light your grow space. Like back in the day there was this whole cobs versus the quantum boards, and now the bar lights have really just taken over the whole LED scene. And
Oh yeah, the blurple, I forgot that.
Blurple days were crazy, and they still grew. I still know some people that grow under Blurple because they have them, and they just throw plants under there, and they grow some dank. Like it's not the best. I can't. My eyes can't handle. I'm light sensitive. Like even in the sunlight, I have to wear sunglasses. Being a blue-eyed person, I just guess some people are like I can see really well in the dark and at night, but I during the daytime I need sunglasses on or else I get headaches, and so different sensitivities to light, but
Did
especially like
you
that
ever
red
play
blue.
football or anything?
Oh yeah, lots of concussions. I had
Yeah, 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 that's a thing too.
dozens of them.
Especially since you said light sensitivity and stuff like that. And well,
I got knocked unconscious multiple times playing football, like out cold. One time, are you familiar with American football? at all?
Oh, I'm familiar because I have family in the States, so I'm interested in American culture and what's going on. So I definitely know American football, and I've did you check for CTE or anything like that?
I don't know like if maybe like until you die they can officially figure it out. Maybe there's new ones that they can figure out, but I would almost guarantee they said post-traumatic encephalitis or something is what
Yeah.
one of the doctors said. But I think once I die, they'll be able to look at my brain and probably say, yeah, I have CTE because I got concussed at least a dozen times, probably closer to like hundreds because my favorite player was Brett Favre. And he was like the gridiron man. He never missed a game. He'd get hit all the time. And I played quarterback. He played quarterback. And you get hit, not only the head, my hands. I have arthritis in both hands, broke every single finger in both hands. So cannabis helps me for a lot of reasons, the mental
Hmm.
issues, as well as the physical pain, fractured spine, yeah, C5, L5. So herniated discs, bulging discs. Like my body has been beaten up quite
Oh
badly.
yeah, I mean especially L5, that's really dangerous because it innerves like your ischias nerve runs right through there. Um, that's really dangerous.
Yeah, I was
That's
16 and my trainer was telling me I had a pulled muscle. So I was continuing to compete in
Yeah, they're
basketball
always
and high
really
jump.
smart.
That's when you go to a real doctor. And the Cleveland Indians, well, Cleveland baseball team now, sorry. Back in the day, they were called that when I was living there. But
Isn't there a South Park episode about that?
probably. And I think no, the Washington football team, I think,
Oh
unless
no,
they've done
the
a
the
recently.
Redskins. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But there's been multiple examples of that. And so but anyway, the guy was just like some local in my area and the nurse actually got me scanned for the x-ray, didn't find it. But then he's like, "Oh, you have to have him lay this way, like with like my leg over to the side." And then they saw clear as day like a fracture all the way across my L5. And then they did like more scans and I had two bulging discs and a herniated disc. So year of physical therapy, back brace, and lots of yoga after that, and lots of cannabis. But thankfully, I haven't had any surgeries and surviving.
Very good. I mean, you don't have the classical symptoms of like slurred speech. Your speech is very fast and good, so
Good
nothing
old
going on
YouTube.
there, I think.
Auditory processing. I think I listen to a lot of content, and even I think maybe have a little bit of ADHD. It hasn't been diagnosed or anything, but I think just I got a psychology degree. I know I have the DSM-5. I own it, a copy of it, so I'm familiar with all the different diagnoses, and I'm pretty sure I'd fall under that category. But like for YouTube, I used to watch at 1x speed, just listen to like how you and I are talking right now, normal
Yeah.
pace. But then I realized I'd get distracted by something on the TV or something in the background, and I'd get distracted really easily. But if I went to like 1.25 or 1.5, it'd make me pay more attention because it's coming at me kind of faster pace. And if I didn't pay attention, then I couldn't pick it up. And now I'm literally like a 2x a lot of stuff because it's the only
Your
way I
speech
can
pattern
focus.
adapted as well.
Yeah, I like have a very high rate of speech, and sometimes I get high and excited, and it gets even worse. And then other times I just relax and slow down. But yeah, I do think listening to 2x too often. Some people have been like, "Jack, you speak way too fast," and I agree. I probably listening to too much 2x content has made me rapid speaker. Some people have told me, especially some elderly folks, like, "I love you, but I didn't understand what you just said. Can you repeat it more slowly?" Like, yes. And I think sometimes I'll accidentally use words that are old timey or not traditionally used, and I just need to speak more plainly sometimes. I think going back to reading, we mentioned earlier, if you read a lot, your vocabulary gets broadened, whether you intend to or not. You just start to pick up words if you look into it, if you don't know it, and it
Yeah.
becomes part of your vocabulary, and you just kind of expect everybody to know it, and that's often not the case.
Like Xanthanol is a guy who uses a very high level word sometimes. And
Very often.
I find that really funny when he's on always. And he seems to use a high level word very perspicacious.
Yes, he's sometimes he'll even follow it up with like the layman term. He'll say like fecundity, and then he'll realize that went over like 80% of our heads. And then it'll be like, AKA how much the insect is reproducing. And so
Yes.
it's educational in its own sense. But sometimes if he doesn't, I'm always the one I listen back and I'm like, what is that word? What does that mean? And I like look into it and then I catch myself using it all of a sudden because in that context, that's where I know that word from. And so I'll use it when it inevitably gets brought up again because we cover a lot of the same stuff. People ask, oh, I've got this pest. How do I deal with it? And
Yeah.
like spider mites, they breed quickly. So that's one of the little fun facts about them. It's like they have a high fecundity, right? They reproduce quickly. And so that can make them a huge problem, especially in the heat. So fuck spider mites.
Yeah, spider mites are the worst.
I was gonna
They're
say,
really,
speaking
really
of
bad.
pests, we're missing xantholontype, but what kind of other, you got spider mites over there? What kind of other things are you guys running into?
Gnats, we got all kinds of stuff really, because of international trade, everything is everywhere. So we got all stuff that you have over there.
Yeah, we sent you our hoplite and viroid and our, all of our bad root aphids and everything. It is
Yeah,
literally,
the root aphids are nasty, man.
those are some of
But
the worst.
I I never got the only thing that I ever got in my grow were like those. Sorry, I've got a little bit of brain fart going on. The very little flies, the gnats,
Fungus gnats, I
fungus
think.
gnats. Yeah.
Those, it's like if
Um,
you overwater a little bit, you can get those. But if you get a little better
exactly.
airflow and then back off on the water a little bit, they usually take care of themselves. So
That's the only thing I ever got. I got fungus gnats, but on another plant, I also like to grow alocasias, and I got fungus gnats on there, and I was like going to war on them immediately. I was nuking them relentlessly, and gladly they disappeared very quickly. But if I wouldn't have listened to this show religiously for since 2021, I think I wouldn't have noticed that, and that would have become a real problem because I've got rare varieties of alocasia. They're expensive. They look really great, and I like to keep them neat and pristine. And I hate that when the leaf gets a little bit imperfect. And so, yeah,
I'm with you. I was just out trimming my plumeria the other day. I didn't get to water on my big one soon enough because we were busy transplanting the two small varieties. We just bought like two rare varieties or whatever. And you just want them all looking their best, especially like I think once you get into cannabis and you can see how well plants can grow. And I'm
yeah,
glad that, our little bits of tips could help you not only on the cannabis plants, but on your rare varieties. It goes to show that what you learn for this can apply to so many other things. And I know we're getting really late. It's about 3 a.m. your time. So I want to give you a
yeah.
chance to give any final thoughts and shout outs before we wrap this show up.
Oh, yeah, it's already 3 a.m. I got more awake as the show progressed, I must say. But I really enjoyed it. It was a very nice exchange. I felt really engaged. It was fun. It was really nice to see you guys, whom I know only from listening, basically, um, in person. And I enjoy all the little personality quirks of the regulars. And like seeing Spartan, for instance, dabbing it up, and then you see like his eyelids going down a little bit, and then when he gets less high, they open up, and then it's like a opening and shutting door kind of
Just
throughout the
like that
show.
wave you talked
Or
about, it goes
yeah,
ebbs
yeah,
and
yeah,
flows.
exactly. Or for instance, what I like about the American one who wasn't present today is I find it really funny how often he has mute button problems. That I find really funny. And yeah, but generally, when I have a grow, I'd like to show it off if the people enjoy it. And I use the information I receive here not only in growing cannabis, but also with other stuff, and it gets me more engaged in my daily life. And for instance, I use the organic soil amendments like insect frass and all the NPK stuff or anything really for growing the rare varieties. And yeah, I must say it was a great experience. And cheers to everybody listening. Get growing, get going, blow some smoke, smoke an indica variety and stretch because that helps really. Smoke some sativa, go on a jog, enjoy the sun, eat healthy, and that's all I have to say.
All great tips. I just did a 2 hour yoga class that I led right before the show. So I'm all about stretching. It is fantastic what it can do for your body at any age. It's just keeps you limber, keeps you healthy. And as always, I'm at Jack Greenstock. I got my sales finishing up today, the 50% off for all of those in the US. I will say it's amazing when I see the statistics. It says, oh, we have people in Germany that listen to the show. And it's kind of like, oh, yeah, there's people out there. And sometimes I get DMs and things like that. But to have somebody come on and actually talk to us, hear a little bit of the accent. You barely even have an accent. You lived here for long enough, I think. I know a lot of people that, speak English from Germany that sound a lot more German. So your English is incredibly, incredibly good. So we were very blessed and thankful to have had you for this last 2 hours. We greatly appreciate you staying up late and sharing the information. It's so cool to get a little glimpse into the cannabis scene over there. And so if anybody wants to find me, they know where they can find me. And 50strains.com, that sale's wrapping up in the next hour or so. So cheers to everybody who listened. We really appreciate you all listening live and then everybody afterwards. Thank you all on the podcast and wherever you listen to this on X, wherever. So cheers, everybody. Catch you all in the next one. Peace and love.
Peace out.